Dee, thank you so much, not just for the opportunity to talk here, but for creating with Dave and your whole board this wonderful, vibrant organization. I'm going to talk about the formal side of the Democratic Party tonight, but I want to first start by saying that groups like this, and we have a few of them in Brookhaven. I want to acknowledge longtime executive committee member and sometimes president, I think, of the Three Village Democratic Club, Barry McCoy, who is here. These groups are so important, and they're just as important as the party apparatus. But I hope I can make a case tonight for why it's worth it to get involved with the actual party committee and what that means to be involved with the party committee. So first, how many people here, I know there are a bunch, but how many people here are currently committee members on the Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee? And I want to acknowledge the chair of the Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee, Anthony Portese, who is here as well. So many of you are members now. Some of you may have been members in the past. And so your job is to not just fact check me, although Diane promised she would, but also to convince other people that they should join. Because we are in a moment right now where we know it's an all hands on deck situation. We need to make change locally, nationally, as quickly as possible. So protests like the No Kings rallies are incredibly important, even though they don't change legislation, right? But showing up, being there, and being visible as opposition to what's happening right now is incredibly powerful and important. Also, starting to get more Democrats elected here is incredibly important. So we're in a moment where we have a huge amount of energy and frustration put together, and the only way to deal with that internally as well as in the world is to do something with it. And one very productive thing you can do is become a committee member, find more people to become committee members to help us get Democrats elected here. I like to say I grew up just outside Chicago. When I was growing up, I was used to the Chicago machine. So I used to say when I first moved here that it was refreshing to move to Brookhaven, where the corrupt endemic party was the Republicans. I've now lived here longer than I ever lived in the Chicago area, and I don't find it refreshing at all anymore. We need to make a change. So first, just the basics of what is the Democratic Committee. In New York State, we have committee members that are the party leadership for the party at every level, and they are chosen by the Democrats, the registered Democrats of the state. So we have committee members for the town, the Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee. Anybody who's a member of the Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee is also a member of the Suffolk County Democratic Committee. And then we have the New York State Democratic Committee. And Barry is, I believe, still, and Diane?
I'm the vice chair.
Diane is a vice chair. Barry is a member of the state committee. They are chosen from a larger group from the assembly districts.
And we're voting for Kathy Hochul for governor in 2 days.
There we go. So that will be an official state party choice. But what I'm going to talk about today is mostly the Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee and the Suffolk County Democratic Committee. Each electoral district can have up to 2 members of the committee that represent the voters of that district. And in Brookhaven, we have 308 electoral districts. As I said...
Nancy, can I interrupt?
Yeah?
Election district map right there, people can take it. Razzles.
Yes, so afterwards, if you want to know which electoral district you are in, you can check it out there. Some electoral districts currently have 2 members. And so if you live in one of those districts and you are ready to be a committee member, you will be assigned to a different electoral district. Some have 1 and have room for another one, and some have none. We'll get to that. So what do committee members do? They represent their community on the BTDC board, and I'll talk about what that means about the community. So the first, most basic and required responsibility of committee members is to help us get our candidates on the ballot. And the way we do that is by collecting petitions with signatures. You may have signed a petition. If you're not a committee member yourself, you may have been asked by a committee member to sign a petition to get either them on the ballot, typically, but to get them as a committee member, or to get other candidates onto the ballot. And any candidate that runs for office and appears on the ballot in the primary, if there is a primary, or in the general, has to have gone through this petitioning process. Petitioning is going to be starting soon, which is why this is a timely presentation, right? So we are now working to assign new committee members to electoral districts so that they can start collecting petitions at the end of the month. And we have essentially 4 weeks to collect petitions. Then other things that committee members do is canvass in their electoral district to help candidates to win over persuadable voters, closer to election day to focus on getting out the vote, to get people to actually come out and convince them that it's worth it. Also, really important, committee members are the ears of the committee, the party, and the candidates in their community. So when you're knocking on doors, you're having conversations with people, and if they're not happy, they're going to tell you why they're not happy. One fundamental state of New York and government is we have so many layers of government, and I'm sure, B, you know this from the Civic Association. There's so many levels of government that people never know who to go to in the government for a particular problem. And that's one thing that you can help them with. So they don't know if there's a traffic light. They don't know whether that's a town, county, state thing. And it could be any one of those depending on which road it is. So it's not like you can just say, oh, well, talk to your town council member regardless of what the road is. So helping people get connected with the government and helping candidates know what you're hearing from people is a key part. And then, as Dee mentioned, there's going to be an election this year for chair of the Suffolk County Democratic Committee. I am on record as supporting Catherine Casey Quigley because I think she is providing the energy we need to start winning elections here again. But regardless of who you're supporting, being on the committee gives you the chance to vote. Only committee members will be voting for who the chair is. So it's really important.
When is that election?
That election will be in September or October, depending on when the current chair of the Democratic Committee calls it for. So it'll be sometime, I think it's between, I don't remember the exact dates, but say September 15th to October 8th
So prior to the midterms.
Prior to the November elections and well after the primaries. So the primary elections are in June. Election day is, of course, in November, and this will be a month and a half before to a month before, depending on exactly when it gets scheduled. Any other questions? So I said you're representing your community, but I already said that your electoral district might be full. You don't have to live in the electoral district you represent, but you do have to live in the same assembly district as that electoral district. So whether you're in Jody Giglio's district or Rebecca Cassé or one of the others, you can represent any electoral district in that assembly district, as long as there aren't already two other people. So why do we care? Well, some of us might want to get rid of Nick LaLota. It's possible. I would like to get rid of Nick LaLota. The last time we had a Democratic member of Congress elected here was 2012. That's the last time Tim Bishop was reelected. Do any of you remember when we had a Democratic town supervisor? The last time we had a Democratic town supervisor elected was 2011. And some of you may remember that he resigned the next year by choice. And then we had Ed Romaines after that. The last time we had a majority elected in the Suffolk County legislature was 2019. And until this last year's elections, the 2025 elections from the previous term, the Republicans had a supermajority. So we went from having a Democratic supermajority not all that long ago to having a Republican supermajority. And now, thanks to the good work of the folks in Southold, we have flipped a seat and brought them down from a supermajority, but they still have a majority. I say that not to get you all sad. I actually want to point out that's not all that long ago, right? Think about it this way. We used to win here not that long ago, and we still can win here. So that's my first big message. We can win here. So how do we win? And for some of you, you've seen these slides before or a variation on them, because Andrew Thomas, spouse of Rebecca Cassé, made a terrific presentation at the Three Village Democratic Club analyzing what happened in that election and what can we learn from it. And if you're looking for a great talk to have here sometime, I strongly recommend having Andrew, but I'm going to give you his punchlines because I don't have time to give his talk and the rest of this. So Andrew looked in many different ways by electoral district at the results of the election. And his first conclusion was that campaigning works. And he showed us a few different examples of why, but here is one, which is just, this is a map of assembly districts in Brookhaven, basically. And what the difference was between the vote for Senator Gillibrand and the vote for the assembly candidate. And what you can see is all that light blue and white stuff, that's Assembly District 4, that's Rebecca Cassé's district. In every other district where there wasn't a real strong campaign by a candidate, I'm not talking about quality of person, but effort spent on campaigning, door knocking, sending out mailings, people talking word of mouth. Gillibrand beat everybody. And in the one district, in every ED, so this is Republican EDs, Democratic EDs, whatever, Rebecca did as well or better than Gillibrand. And that was not true where there wasn't a candidate running an active campaign. So campaigning works. Second big point that Andrew made to us was that there are Democrats everywhere. So this is Rebecca's district. The red are the districts that she lost. This is just the vote in her election. The red are the districts she lost. The blue are the ones she won. The really dark, almost black on the left-hand side, that's Stony Brook campus. She won by a lot. Very Democratic district. The other deep blue down on the bottom right, that's Gordon Heights. She won by a lot. And then the reds are different parts where she lost, some by quite a bit. But then Andrew took the same data. This is just won versus lost in what percentage. Then he turned the same data into this nice little bar graph. Can you guys see it? It's a little dark. But can you see it all right? From where I am, it's hard to see. No, I mean, so there's little bars in each of these EDs. Sorry for the poor, I don't think it's worth turning off the lights. But those little bars show the Democratic vote and the Republican vote in each ED. And what you see is, if you only look at who won, you think, oh, well, Rebecca got all these votes in these blue areas. But if you add up how many EDs she lost and how many EDs she won fewer EDs than she lost. There are more red boxes than blue. But she won more votes in the red districts, the red EDs, than she did in the blue EDs. So that's the first thing. Because there are Democrats everywhere. And the districts she lost by less than her opponent at Flood lost in the blue districts. So if she only paid attention to the blue areas, she wouldn't be elected today. It's because she went everywhere and focused everywhere and got more votes in those red districts. She didn't get enough to win. And I've talked to folks who say that this is how Josh Shapiro won in Pennsylvania, that they focused on the deep red districts and making them pink and not so deep red. A vote is a vote wherever you get it. And if you get somebody who is a Republican to vote for a Democrat, that's a double win. But if you get somebody to show up who wasn't going to vote because they think everyone around them is a Republican and it's not going to do any good for them to vote, you're also making a big difference. The third thing that Andrew told us is that each community has its own character. And that wasn't based on the data of the voting, but on their experience with campaigning. And that the example that he gave us was that they put together these postcards that were based on what they had heard at the doors in different neighborhoods. And they put how she was going to help that neighborhood on the postcard. Very good. Very important. Wins elections. But how do you do that reproducibly? That's where the committee comes in. So Brookhaven has 380 Ds. That's the map with these lines. The lines on the map, so that's Brookhaven town. You can go over there to see it in more detail, but these are the lines of each of the electoral districts in Brookhaven. Of those, I forgot. And so remember, these are the roles of the committee in those EDs. But all of these EDs shown here have no committee member at all. It's about 2/3.
The blue?
The blue ones here, so this is all of Brookhaven. And these are the empty ones, the ones that have no committee member representing them. I just did it in blue because that's how the county GIS site does it by default. So the white ones, just again, you can see what what looks like it's missing is the ones where we have at least one committee member. And these are the ones where we have no committee member
So the
as
white-
of
the white ones
2024.
do have committee members.
The white ones do have committee members and the blue ones don't. Now you have to realize different EDs are different geographic sizes. They're also different populations. But it is 2/3 of the EDs have 0 committee members.
South Shore is slacking. Yeah.
Well, okay, so you have to be really careful there because you're getting the whole Great South Bay. So those, I'll just go over and point out, those are really just Fire Island, but the way it maps it, it shows it with the Great South Bay. I will show you here. Here is the Great South Bay border, Mastic Beach here. So this is the Great South Bay, and then there's Fire Island. There are some people who live on Fire Island. Okay, so this is why we need more energy. Because committee members are what we need to do this community-based campaigning. You can make a difference by being a committee member, whether it's in your own ED or one nearby. Because if you've gone canvassing in some of these neighborhoods where it might end up red, but only by a little bit, you will talk to people all the time who say, I didn't know there were any other Democrats here. Am I the only one on my street? And you say, oh no, I've just talked to 3 other people on your street and I've got a bunch of others who weren't home. Like, really? They don't even know they're not alone. But knocking on those doors, right? Barry, I see you nodding. You've had that experience, I'm sure, multiple times. So we want to fill every ED in Brookhaven with at least one committee member. Better to have 2. If we end up with more than 2, we can have people who are learning from the committee members. And then when those people don't want to be committee member anymore, they can come in. We would love to have that problem. Because by building an active Democratic committee, we can be around cool people who also want to make a difference and make the world better. We can work to make change in Brookhaven and in Suffolk County. We can get Democrats elected up and down the ballot. I don't know which of those 2 comes first, but both of those are important. So how do you become a committee member? I know you're all dying to know. First thing you do is you sign up. And I have a sign-up sheet here. You can put your name. We really do need name, email, phone number, cell phone preferred, and most importantly, address, because we need to know where you live in order to figure out where you're eligible to serve as a committee member. If you want, you can find a buddy to be a committee member with you. Spouse, friend, political hanger, somebody you like to hang out and have political discussions with. And you can go door to door together and serve and handle one of those about 200 EDs that need representation. Then what you do is you collect signatures. And that's what starts at the end of February. So you need to collect about 20 signatures for yourself and about 20 signatures for our other candidates to get them on the ballot. Where there are multiple candidates, like we do have a couple of candidates now for running for New York 1 for Congress. If you live in New York 2, there's, I think, 3 candidates now in New York 2 for Congress. You get to pick which of those you carry or carry none of them, whatever, that's up to you. But if there is no primary, we count on the committee to collect the signatures. How do you do that? I'm not going to go into all of the training. There are specific rules of what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. You have to see the people sign it. You can't have somebody take the petition into their house to their wife who just got out of the shower. You have to actually observe them signing it. There are other rules of how to do it properly. There's going to be a training tomorrow night on Zoom And if you are interested and you're not getting BTDC emails, our chair would be happy to help you get the information, or I will be happy to help you get the information to attend the Zoom. The Women's Caucus, that's the BTDC, Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee Women's Caucus, where I serve as vice chair, is also planning to do a training. I think 2 weeks from tomorrow is the current tentative date, but that is not finalized. And I will be in California then, so I will not be participating. Petitioning is going to start at the end of the month and go to late March. The reason I'm a little vague on the dates is because first you have to be assigned an ED and get your petitions. And then at the end, BTDC wants them in time. Or if you're working with Catherine Casey Quigley's team, they want them in time to make sure that everything is correct and before they submit them to the Board of Elections. And the Board of Elections deadline is in early April. Dave?
Sure.
I believe you have to be 18. Do you know? Did I get that right? Diane says I got that right. And she would know. So you have to be registered to vote. So you have to be 18 for that, but there's no greater minimum. I mean, there's no more restrictive minimum age. You have to be registered to vote. And you have to be registered as a Democrat. If you are not registered as a Democrat, if you're registered Working Families Party blank, or I don't think anybody here is going to be registered as a Republican, but if you were, you would have to change your registration by February 14th. And you now can do that online. You used to not be able to change party except in writing, but now you can do that online. And if you're not sure of your registration party, you can also check that online, as long as you know what your birth date is and your address. But no one else can check it for you unless they know your birth date. And as I said, if you are already a committee member, please help us recruit new people. There's so much energy out there. There's so much frustration. For some reason, every time I see friends, they ask me about politics. I don't know why. But every time they do that now, I say, hey, what I'm doing is trying to get new people on the committee to get more Democrats elected. Are you interested? And they say, oh, yeah, I got to do something. So if you have friends who are going, what am I supposed to do? This is so awful, which it is. It is so awful. Let's channel that frustration, that anger, that fear, and that energy into actually making a difference locally. And I believe 100% that the only way we're going to get a change nationally in our national seats here is by starting to elect Democrats at the local level. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Can you explain again how it works when there's more than one candidate running? Like we may have at least two candidates for CD1. What are you picking, taking the petition for the candidate?
Yeah, so in Brookhaven, our tradition is that each committee member chooses for themselves which, if there are more than one declared candidate, they can pick which candidate's petition they want to carry.
Or they can carry several.
Or they can carry several. And in Smithtown, their tradition is that they carry everybody and they offer them to at every door. You know, which of these would you like to sign for? Some people carry for one if they don't have a preference or they don't want to get involved. They'll carry for one day and for the other day. There's no requirement when there's a primary. The town committee doesn't ask you to get a certain number of signatures for that race. Whereas when there's no primary, we're asking you to get the 20 signatures per race. I mean, they will be mostly put all on one sheet. So you only need to get a signature on that sheet. And I didn't mention, because I wasn't doing a training, but you'll have a book of every registered voter in the electoral district organized by street. So, and it will say their name, their address, and their party registration. And so you can do something like highlighting all the Democrats. And then when you go and walk on that street, it would be easier if it was like odd and even. So you have to kind of go down and skip the evens while you're walking the odd side and then come back on the even side. But you can hit only the Democrats, because only Democrats are allowed to sign the petitions to get somebody on the Democratic ballot. Jane.
If you're a committee person, can you get another Democratic person to carry one of your petitions?
Yes. Any registered Democrat in the state is allowed to, they don't have to live in your ED, they don't have to live in your assembly district, but any registered Democrat is allowed to carry and witness petitions for any petition, but only one witness per page. So if you're going to carry some and somebody else is going to carry some, you'll have one page which is the ones that you witnessed and a different page which is the ones that they witnessed. How am I doing, guys?
Good, thank you.
And in other words, a person who signs the petition for you can sign what?
Can you stand up?
Right, I'll say that. So when you're collecting signatures, the person who is signing as a signer, so each petition page, and I didn't have one to take a picture of to show you, but each petition page has room for typically 15 signatures. It depends on how much stuff there is at the top. And then a space for you to sign that you were the witness. So if somebody else is collecting signatures for you, just like we're asking you to collect signatures for other candidates, it's exactly the same process. They're collecting the signatures, they're watching every person sign their name, and then they're signing their name as the witness. And that's just as valid for you to be committee member as for them. So, for example, if you have a buddy, but you each have different times that you're able to go, you can both collect signatures for each other and also collect signatures for the candidates. But we still ask you to get 40 signatures, not 20 between the two of you. But you need 20 signatures for yourself. Ken?
I do have an answer to Dr. Fung's concern. So, committee person needs to get, you're saying 40 signatures. How many signatures?
20 signatures. Yeah, we ask you to get 20. It depends on the ED what the actual requirement is, but they're pretty much all under 20. So if you get 20, you are over the requirement. There are a few EDs where that might not be the case. But we're asking you.
You want to explain what the actual rule is? 5%.
The actual rule is you need to get 5% of the registered Democrats in the ED. Okay? And for most EDs, 20 is more than that.
And how about when the candidates with different positions? Is it a 5% rule or does it get higher?
Okay, so overall, the larger the district, the more signatures the candidate needs, but also the more EDs there are to collect those signatures from. So if every committee member is getting 20 signatures for candidates across all levels, that generally is enough for them to get on the ballot. The exception is when you have a primary, then there may or may not be enough signatures gathered by the committee to get all the candidates on the ballot. And it's up to the candidates to make sure they have enough signatures. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good? D.
Going back to the question about two people doing the same answer, those two people are committee people, committee members.
There's no requirement that only committee members collect signatures. But if you're going to collect signatures, you might as well be a committee member. And just to put this all in perspective, this 20 signatures that you need to get, Diane, how many signatures did you collect last year on petitions?
1,997. But I'm trying to move to 2,000.
Yeah, she told me 2,000. You know, you just can't believe everything.
Around it. It's,
That was over 3 different petition periods, right?
It was for the presidential, it was for, well, and then the other one was.
Like it's just two different
So,
periods. So Diane single-handedly got Joe Biden on the ballot here. So, Judy, did you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question, but when I have gone to collect signatures, and then they say, it's happened 4 or 5 times, Mama's upstairs and she's very ill, she has a broken leg, she can't come down to sign. Can I go up and see Mom sign? No. But then another family member who is a registered Democrat, you give them
A separate page.
another copy of the same page and say, take it upstairs, you watch Mom sign, and you will authorize it at the bottom. So that can be done. So that's.
But there's no requirement that a petition page have any particular number of signatures.
Right. You can have one.
So you can have a petition page that only has 1 signature.
And for a couple of people who were very, very ill, and 2 of them have now recovered, said to me, it meant so much to sign, which was a nice thing. I'm very ill, I got better.
So bring extra pages with you.
That's it.
All right. Oh, one more question.
I have a question. This is really not related to getting the signatures. I have a Twitter account, and 1,000 people a day see what I have posted. I have 1,000 followers. I want to know, it seems to me that the Republicans have assigned people to just sit on Twitter. And when somebody, posts something extremely vulgar to me, I'll always check that person first. And it seems that they've just signed up the account. They have less than 7 followers. They're following 10 people, but they're put on there to disrupt and to.
Yeah. So they may or may not be Republican things. They may also be Chinese or Russian things.
Right.
They may be, they're troll bots. This is the problem with Twitter now, X, right? This is why a lot of people have moved away from it.
Well, I think we need to organize to meet this wave of people that are pro-Trump and these disgusting conservative things that they're saying, like they're gonna overtake the polls, they're gonna turn states into Republican states, there won't be any Democratic voting in them. I think we need to counteract that with some grassroots organizing people to go on Twitter.
See, I think we need to counteract that by going to people in real life.
Yeah.
Because I hear you, but it's very hard to compete with bots. And there could be, extreme left-wing bots as well. They just aren't attacking your pages. Let's go where the voters are. And when you're having real conversations with real people, you're actually influencing the vote in a way that if you're fighting against bots, you're not having that same interaction. So I actually think we need to focus on real life.
You might, for completeness, you might explain what happens if there are more than 2 people who file petitions in an election district.
I will be happy to do that. So I told you that we only can have 2 people in an electoral district. What I left out is it is possible for anybody to, and I will say that at BTDC, and I told you I'm working with Catherine Casey Quigley, and we are working with BTDC to be constructive. At BTDC, we're not going to assign more than 2 people to the same electoral district. But somebody could get a petition and go and distribute it, as long as they're a registered Democrat, to be a committee member in an electoral district where there already are 2 people. If you have more than 2 people who submit legitimate petitions for an electoral district, then you have a primary. That is, you have a vote that's only open to the Democrats in that electoral district to choose who's going to represent them. And there have been cases on Long Island, I don't know of any in Brookhaven, but there were cases not that long ago in Riverhead where they did primary committee members because they wanted a change in the committee. And the challengers won those at least one primary. So it has happened, it could happen, but I don't know of anybody who's trying to do that purposely now.
There's more than enough open spots.
Right, we got plenty of space, and from my point of view, the most important thing is that we build the party and strengthen it, not that we change who the chair is. It's more important to me that we are building the party, which is why I'm here talking to you about building the party. We'll let Catherine tell you why she's the right person for that job. That's not my purpose here. Ray.
Rick Schaefer, can he appoint committee people and can they vote?
No.
He can appoint people, but not until after the vote, is my understanding. Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah. So.
And Rich actually changed that rule, I believe. Barry, didn't Dominic Barinello used to appoint people all the time?
But not before the organizational meeting.
So the point is that the chair has the ability to appoint committee members, which is a good thing because we do get people, especially in the odd year, who collect petitions. So I didn't mention being a committee member is a 2-year term. So only in the even years do we collect petitions for ourselves, but in the odd years, we still are expected to collect petitions to get the candidates on the ballot for that year, the local candidates. Next year, it'll be Brookhaven Town. Soon there won't be odd year elections, so then we won't have to do that anymore. But there are people who've collected petitions in the odd year, just got involved that year. They weren't a committee member because they didn't know about it the year before. They weren't able to do it the year before. And then with the recommendation of the BTDC chair, the Suffolk County chair has appointed them as committee members. So then they have the right to vote and participate fully after that. And then if they want to petition the next year, they're allowed to keep the ED they were representing if they want to, and so on.
Logically speaking, Rich Schaefer is not the chair after until he is elected by the committee members. So there is no authority to appoint people until the chair is elected.
So the committee members are decided by the primary, right? So if there's no primary, 2 people have submitted or fewer for an ED, those are the committee members. If more than 2 people, then it's decided at the primary. And then in the fall is the organizational meeting. And the date was originally set to be a certain number of days after a fall primary, but when they moved the primaries to June, they didn't move the date. So it's still in September. So there's some lame duck period in there for all of us as committee members but there's no formal activities of the committee between the primary and the first organizational meeting. And the first organizational meeting is sometime between mid-September and early October. And in order to vote, you have to be present at the meeting. All right, I think it's time to wrap up.
No, I think one more.
Okay, go Ernestine.
There's a group of us that do want to work to flip the first district. Where can we get help on getting ourselves organized? And like last year, we were part of a postcard writing group, national. We want to do that in the first district, but we don't know how to get the supplies? Where can we go to get that kind of help?
So that will depend on what happens in the primary, I think. I mean, you'll be able to come to Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee and there will be some information there. But BTDC is dealing with all the campaigns, the state assembly, state senate, as well as, and the gubernatorial election, as well as the congressional election. When the primary has happened, then we will have a nominee and they will have a campaign that will be visible that you can go to. And that sort of effort, you really want to do it. I can speak from experience. You really want to do it in coordination with the candidate's campaign because they will know where they're trying to target, where they need help, what will be most useful for getting the message out. So you want to work with the campaign, but until after the primary, we don't know who our nominee is going to be.
Primary is in June?
Primary is in June.
June 23rd.
June 23rd, someone said, whatever that Tuesday is, and June 23rd sounds quite believable. Dee?
Can you give a brief statement about what the job is of the chairperson of the Suffolk County Democratic Party? What are they supposed to do? Job description.
I might defer to Barry or to our chair, Anthony, on that, but the chair helps to raise money for the county committee, so providing resources. They essentially choose the chairs of the town committees, although those are done by vote. They will get involved with recruiting people to be chair of the town committees. They have an executive committee that includes those chairs as well as the state representatives and whoever else, or maybe the executive committee is not the chairs, but then they also have a group of their chairs. So they're providing the resources. They control the budget of the county committee. And I think fundraising and budget are the two biggest ones that I see. Barry?
Probably the most important job is recruiting candidates. More difficult than raising money is finding people to run for public office.
It would be easier if there was more money.
Is it a paid position?
Yes.
Do they get paid to be chairperson? Do we know what they get paid?
I do not know, but if anyone else does know, they can. I mean, it's public information. I just don't happen to have it. So, but probably if you ask Catherine when she's here, she probably does know. I don't know.
May I say, it's up to you.
Yeah,
May I say
of course.
words of that petition?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Come and use the mic, though.
thank you, Nancy.
You just have to stand here because it doesn't go very far.
So you will be assigned green petitions, a clipboard, and a walker with addresses. I know this is about recruiting committee members, but the really important work you're going to be doing is to get signatures for the candidates. That's really important. And I hope that anybody who wants to be a committee person understands that it is also getting your candidates on the ballot. Even Joe Biden needed to get signatures. So Barry and I are going tomorrow to Syracuse for a convention for governor, lieutenant governor, comptroller, and attorney general.
And lieutenant governor.
She said a lieutenant governor.
And so that convention will be Friday. And, there are several candidates for each one of those positions on the executive New York State. But also, there will be a primary for Congress. There will be a primary for state senate against Palumbo. There will probably not be a primary for assembly district. Well, we hope that Rebecca doesn't have a primary. But you will get, your first one will be yours. You're going to lead with the person you think is the most powerful. Okay? So you will have yours. You will have a unified petition, which has people who are not running a primary. And also that includes judges, state committee people, and others. And then you'll have at least 2 or 3 for Congress, at least 2 for state senate, and hopefully you won't have primaries. But you'll be carrying several petitions. And
You're not required to carry all the different candidates who are running, but you can carry them if you want. Of all the different primary candidates.
for Congress, I carried them for all of you. But, I asked which one they wanted. So, and that's how I do it. When I go to my house, I say, do you have a preference for who you want to vote for Congress? And then I witness that. But please, this is very important to walk all of those petitions. And you'll get 4 or 5 at each house. By the time you get to the bottom one, they're sick of it. And they don't want to sign it again, so put your strongest on top.
Put yourself on top.
Got a question about that. If you're carrying a
Thank
petition for yourself,
Thank
can you witness yourself then?
No.
Or
You
can't?
cannot witness
So you can't
yourself, but if you have a committee member buddy, they can witness.
Or you-
You can sign on their petition and they
Vice
can
versa.
sign on yours. Yeah, you can't witness yourself.
How do you research?
It's not that you can't witness, you can't sign the same petition you're witnessing. You can sign a petition for you, but it can't be one that you're witnessing.
Oh, in other words, I could have a petition that has my name on it, not that I'm signing, but that I'm carrying, and I can witness that, as long as I didn't sign it.
Correct.
You can't witness your own signature.
That's all. Okay.
You can witness a petition that has your name on it. Barry has done it many times. You can and I have done it. You can witness you can witness a petition that has your name at the top. You can't witness your own signature. Chris.
There was a question over here though.
Yeah, but they put their hand down, so I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, you still have your question. Go for it.
How do you research each candidate so you know who you want to support, especially the very local ones, it's Congress or something, there's literature and see.
Yeah, we don't know yet if there's going to be a state senate primary.
We'll find out tomorrow. They're announcing tomorrow who it is.
Okay, because somebody told me today that they are not running, but hopefully there's somebody else that is running. Excellent. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Very glad to hear it.
How do you research the individual candidates, especially on the local level, to know what their positions are? How do you know?
The best is we try to have those candidates come and speak at Brookhaven Town Democratic Committee meetings. The BTDC meetings are the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. They're usually in person at the headquarters on Horse Block Road in Farmingville. Tomorrow's is by Zoom because of the cold, but they're usually there, and we try. So you want to get on the BTDC mailing list, which if you're a committee member, you will get on the list. And the best thing is to, you can look at their social media, see what they're posting there. You can talk to other people, but we try to have them come and do a meet the candidates.
And all the
So
clubs too provide that service as well.
Right.
We have some of the candidates speak, and there's the Through Village Democratic Club, and you can go to other clubs meetings, and
And these primaries at the very local level, I've never even heard of it, I didn't know that happened, to be honest with you.
which one?
The primaries, you're not at a certain date or anything, they're just, I don't know.
The primaries for elected office are all at the same time. They're all the Democratic primaries for elections that happen in November are always the 4th Tuesday in June now. So they'll all be this, you go in to vote, you can vote for, I don't know, will there be a governor primary or will that be, I mean,
Okay, so,
quickly.
yes, so we'll be nominating Kathy Hochul as a party. She has to get 50% of the votes to be the official candidate, so 50.1. But if Antonio Delgado gets 25%, he could,
That's vote of the state committee.
state committee, right? He also
At the convention on Friday.
on the ballot, but if he doesn't, he can get 15,000 signatures in 10 counties and put himself. Can I just tell you, in 22, Kathy Hochul got 87%, and she was the official candidate. Tom Swazi and Jamani Williams neither of them, they split 12%, so neither of them would be on the ballot, except both of them got the 15,000 petition signatures.
So there's likely to be a primary for
Governor?
but we will not, as a committee, be distributing petitions for those candidates.
That's correct.
So if somebody chooses to also carry petitions for those for the one candidate who's declared, Antonio Delgado, they can do that. But the committee is not going to be distributing petitions.
Their campaigns do it, not the Democratic Party.
Chris.
So Diane may have scared people. If you have 6 petitions and she said by the end, they're like, oh my God, another one. There's their name, the signature, and their address.
All they have to do is the signature and the address. They don't have to write the address.
To put the address in.
That's right.
You can put the address in. So they just have to sign.
Sign.
You walk away from the door, you know where you just were. You can fill in the signatures.
But not the signatures, the addresses. You can commit a felony, but we don't recommend it. You can fill in the addresses. And we recommend that you do write the addresses yourself. And then they see that all the addresses are in the same writing. Once you've got, but anyway, this is part of the training that I don't want to do today. You can tune in tomorrow to the Zoom to be trained. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard. I estimate that to get 20 signatures is usually about 5 hours, but it depends on the ED. It could be less, it could be more. 4 to 8 hours of knocking on doors is pretty good for getting 20 signatures. So we're not talking about 10, 20 hours of work.
I'd like to get back to local.
Yeah.
Just think, if every one of our EDs could have 2 committee members, okay? We could even find more candidates, because the more people we talk to, we can spot somebody and say, oh, this person has potential. Right. So.
And campaigns are very expensive. The more we are doing this work, the easier it is for people to get elected.
Yes.
So Diane is absolutely right. The petitioning is really important. And I know she and Anthony both have carried a lot of the load of collecting signatures when we don't have enough committee members in the districts where we have candidates trying to run, just to get our candidates on the ballot. But that's just the starting point. Where we really want to go is that we're actually having conversations that are leading people to get out and vote for Democrats so that we're getting Democrats elected. And I'm going to stop there. Happy to answer any other questions, but please sign up. There's a sign-up sheet here if you are interested in joining the committee. If you have friends who might be interested, send them to us, send them to BTDC or to me or to Dee to send to me, and we will get them connected, because this is a great time to find people and build our committee.
Thank you, Nancy.